What is up? John Theismann, aka Jungle Jack from Around the Board. Today I want to do another classic game feature. And a lot of you may remember back in the 80s, the Game Master series of board games that came out from Milton Bradley. The most popular of these, of course, was Axis and Allies, which has become widely known as one of the best World War II strategy games out there. But they also had Broadsides and Boarding Parties, they had Shogun, and all these games were really popular. But the one I want to talk about today, you don't hear that much about, and it was my favorite one of the bunch. And that game is Fortress America. Okay, this game was a staple in our house. My father and I played this a lot, and I would like to talk to you about it today. If many of you might have heard of it, but never really knew what it was about. And so we're going to put it on the table, take a look at it, show you what it looks like, see how it plays, just so if nothing else, give you a little background information on it, on some older games, and see maybe how games kind of produced, how games changed, how games morphed over the years. So we'll get that to the table, take a look at it, come back up and talk about it. So here we have Fortress America set up and ready to play. And as you can see, it has hundreds of these cool little guys, little minis. They weren't called minis back then. Basically, they were called army men. So it comes with a bunch of little army men. And the United States starts with two per city, which I don't think I have quite that many out there, but you get the gist of it. The idea of the game is the United States is overwhelmed by an invading force from three sides, as you can see. From the ever-feared Asian People's Alliance from the west, we've got the Central American Federation from the south, and somebody from the east that's fictional. So what we have here is the way the game usually starts is the United States is overwhelmed by all these forces coming in. As you can see, you've just got a couple people here to hold San Antonio, and you have hover tanks and infantry coming in. And the way the game usually plays, the flow of the game is the invaders come in, they have to hold so many cities for the whole turn because the invaders all have a turn, and then the United States has a turn. And the invaders have a limited amount of forces that they can start that they have for the entire game. So after a force is killed for the invaders, they're out of the game. The United States can keep bringing them back. So the United States has an advantage as the game goes on. What the United States also has is these really cool satellites that they can use. So you place a satellite. First thing you do on your turn as the United States, you place a satellite in any city that you occupy, and then you get to pick any area on the whole board and fire that satellite and take a unit out of that space. So that's a really cool power that the United States has as well. The only way that the United States gets reinforcements, however, is through their cards. You get a deck of these Fortress America cards, and each one of them will have a little news event and then show you what units will go where. So you've got a little TV screen there with a news event, and it shows you exactly what pieces will go where. And the way these can really gum up the works for the invaders is as the invaders are coming in, they have to keep a supply line all the way back to their entry point. So you've come in as the South, and you're trying to get all these cities. You're bringing all your forces up. All of a sudden, all these other forces for the United States spring up over here, and they knock out your entire supply line. Now you have to spend time going back, getting all that reestablished, and then boom, it might happen again. So the speed is of the essence as the invaders. You need to come in, you need to wipe out as many cities as possible, take them under your control, and as I say, for the United States, you're trying to prolong the whole mess, because the longer it lasts, the better your odds are. You're going to start overwhelming the invaders with your own forces that keep coming back wave after wave. We talked a little bit about the components. Every force that's invading has their own component tray with all your little guys, and then your tokens that you use to show which areas you've already conquered. So everybody's got their own little tray of toys, basically. Once you run out of these, you're done with them. You basically have no other forces left in the game. But like I say, immediately, it's more than enough for you to make a big charge and come in and take over some cities. And here we have the tray for the United States player, which a lot of it's already out there on the board. But you also have a bonus of these little partisans, is what they're called, these little army men that'll sprout up for just one turn. So when those come in, you just attack with them whatever you can and then get out of dodge because they disappear at the end of your turn. Here's more of those satellites that you put out. That's the scary thing. They come out once every time. It's always a 5 or more for a hit. So when you use the bigger side dice, so you get to use the 10-sided dice with the satellite and with the bombers. So you got these cool bombers that you can use. Kind of hard to see. There's not the biggest minis. They're very mini minis. But then like the infantry will use the 6s, the helicopters will use the helicopters, and the hover tanks will use the 8-sided die. And it's kind of cool how they all have their own powers. And as a matter of fact, we'll show you the board that breaks all that down. So here's the chart that comes with the game, and it shows you the breakdown of how each unit moves and how each unit attacks and what dice that they use. It's really cool. It's color coded, and so you can tell exactly which die that you're going to use. And it works really well, and it's very clear and concise, really kind of ahead of its time the way it's produced. And on the back, you've got this nice example of how you do combat. And so it's really cool. You know, you didn't have guides like this back then, so that's really cool that this just comes right out of the box. Just a real quick example of how battle works. Like as you're the invading armies, you have to designate what you're going to attack, even if it's an empty space. You'd have to put a little battle symbol in there. As you do move into it and conquer it, you flip that over and it stays flipped over unless an actual American unit goes into it later in the game. Same thing with the cities. You'd put a battle unit there. You can, any adjacent space that you have that can attack it is free to attack it. The defender fires first and then the attacker. If you take it out, then boom, that city goes away. You hold on to it, and that city becomes under your control. Once you have so many cities, you win the game. If the United States, if you can hold off the... Basically, as the United States, there's no end game winning. The invaders have to give up because eventually it's obvious that they can't win anymore. They have no new players coming in. I guess they could refuse to surrender. So that right there might be a flaw in the game. But basically, that's how you play, and that's how you win. So there you have it. That's Fortress America. That's how it looks. That's how it plays. To me, what it reminds me of, it's kind of like a little. It was like the transition period between the old games, the old war games with the hexes on the board and the little cardboard chits with the little numbers on them. Really boring looking games. This one plays essentially the same way, although maybe not as complicated. You don't have the different terrains that you worry about. But it has it's instead of the little cardboard things, it replaces them with cool looking little army men and tanks and whatnot, and it makes it easier and fun to play. And it's visually, it's fun. It's a lot of fun to play, just messing with the little guys. I mean, that's, to be honest, that's what it is. You're playing with toys when you play this game. But it works really well as a 2-player game, but we tried it at 4-player many times, and it just doesn't seem to work that way. It's really at its heart a 2-player game with one player playing the invaders and the other player playing the United States. Funny thing is, in the rules it says, have the more experienced player play as the United States because, you know, they're being attacked and everything, but you really have to pull something off to win as the invaders in this game. I don't know if that was done by design. This did come out in the mid 80s, so it was big pro-America time. So maybe that was the case, but it's a handful of times that the invaders have won because you have to really get some good luck with the rolls for one to win, and the United States has to miss with those lasers quite a bit. So, but you know what? If you find this cheap somewhere, go ahead and snag it up and play with it and see what you think, because it is a fun little ride. But I would recommend only 2 players. Okay, and the other thing is, this came out right about the same time I think as Red Dawn. It's got a real Wolverines feel to it because people are invading the United States, and hey, we're gonna hunker down and we're gonna take them out. So go Wolverines! Until next time, Jungle Jack on Around the Board.